One day, your body will stop negotiating with you. You can eat carefully, sleep carefully, measure every number, and still feel time taking pieces back. Most of us think death is what happens when life fails. But maybe death is not just a failure of life. Maybe it is one of the ways life kept going. That is the ugly question. Why does anything living have to die? Many people have heard a story that some dogs, near the end, leave home and look for a quiet hidden place. That story does not prove a secret death switch, but it does press on something we already fear. What if the ending is not only an accident, but something life systems have been prepared to do? To see why, start far away from humans. On the early Earth, some simple life forms did not die in the way we imagine death. If copying yourself counts as continuing, they almost looked immortal. Not one body lasting forever, but the same life information repeating again and again. At first, that sounds like the dream. No aging face, no funeral, no last breath. But the dream had a price. When life only copies itself, the copies are too similar. If the world changes, if a new thread appears, one weakness can become everybody's weakness. The whole group may not collapse instantly, but it can be hit together. So immortality, at that level, was not pure victory. It was fragility, wearing a perfect mask. That is the first crack in the fantasy. Living forever is useless if forever means repeating the same vulnerability until the world finds it. Later, across long evolution, more complex cells and sexual reproduction appeared. Life stopped relying only on the same old copy. Sexual reproduction shuffles genes, like mixing two decks before dealing a new hand. The children are not identical replicas. That difference matters, because when the environment turns cruel, variation gives at least some bodies a better chance. But life did not only invent mixing, it also gave individual bodies a boundary. A lifespan is not a simple command from some conscious gene. It is more like a limit built into the bargain. You can stretch it, protect it, slow some damage, but you do not fully own the clock. And that is where this stops being biology and starts feeling personal. Your body is not just keeping you alive, it is also managing what gets passed on after you. Every day you live, your cells face radiation, toxins, oxygen, stress, and copy mistakes. Most damage is repaired, but not all of it disappears. Live long enough, and tiny errors can start to feel like dust in every room of a house. If too much damage is carried into the next generation, the burden on the group can become heavier. Life moves forward, but it may be carrying a backpack filled by the past. You can see a rough echo of this in some animal groups. Grown offspring leave, or are pushed away. On the surface, it looks cold, but in some cases, that distance may reduce the risk of close relatives breeding and amplifying hidden problems. Death is the darker version of that logic. From one cold evolutionary angle, old bodies leave the stage so new combinations can keep trying. It is not gentle, and it is not fair to the body that has to leave. But evolution has never promised fairness to the one who feels the pain. This is the most uncomfortable reversal. Death may not be only the enemy of love. Seen from far enough away, it can look like one of life's brutal abilities: clear the old form, protect the possibility of the next form. The individual pays the bill. The pattern continues. That sentence hurts because you are the individual. You do not experience yourself as a gene delivery system. You experience yourself as memories, skin, hunger, shame, love, plans, and fear. But from an evolutionary view, the body can also look like a temporary bridge for information. You thought your genes lived inside you. Another way to say it is that you are helping genes cross a river you cannot cross forever. And after the main reproductive window, the pressure to maintain the body forever may weaken. No one has to imagine genes thinking or making plans. It is colder than that. Evolution rewards what gets passed on, not what comforts the person carrying it. The repair budget does not vanish in one birthday, but over time, the maintenance can feel less generous. The body still mends cuts, fights infections, and replaces worn-out parts. It just may stop treating endless preservation as the highest priority. That is why aging can feel like a betrayal from inside your own skin. Then comes the case that makes the whole story stranger. In 1951, Henrietta Lacks, a black American woman, had cervical cancer cells taken and grown into what became the famous HeLa cell line. These were not healthy, immortal human cells. They were abnormal cancer cells. But they kept dividing in laboratories in a way ordinary body cells usually cannot. Some people use rough generation counts to say HeLa cells are like a human life stretched across thousands of years. Do not treat that as a precise age. The frightening part is simpler. Some cells escaped the usual limit. Many normal body cells cannot divide forever. After a certain number of divisions, often described as a few dozen, they stop. This is commonly called the Hayflick limit. The secret is partly hidden at the ends of chromosomes in structures called telomeres. Think of the chromosome as a shoelace. A telomere is like the little plastic cap at the end, protecting it from fraying. Each time a cell divides, telomeres usually get a little shorter. When they become too short, the cell receives a warning. Do not keep copying like this. It is like a copier with a built-in page limit. At some point, the machine refuses to print. That sounds cruel until you imagine the alternative. A damaged copier making flawed copies forever. Your wrinkles, your slower healing, your tired joints are now abstract ideas. They are your body feeling limits that begin at microscopic ends. There is another source of damage inside you. Mitochondria, often described as the cell's power stations, help make usable energy. But while they do that, they can also produce highly reactive byproducts, often called free radicals. Picture sparks and loose screws flying around a workshop. Not every spark burns the place down, but small hits, repeated for decades, can bend the machinery. When you're young, the repair crews are usually more active. Antioxidant systems and other maintenance tools help clean up part of the mess. Later in adulthood, repair does not suddenly disappear, but it may become less efficient than before. By old age, the damage is not just today's new scratch. It is the total account of many scratches that were never completely erased. The workshop still runs, but the lights flicker, the floor leaks, and every repair takes longer. That is why aging feels like losing control in slow motion. And here is the final sting. Telomere shortening is not always completely one way. Cells have an enzyme called telomerase that can help extend telomeres. That does not mean turning it on would be a safe recipe for immortality. Cancer itself is a warning that endless division can become terrifying when limits fail. So the question becomes unavoidable. If the body has repair tools, why not run them at full power forever? One cool answer is that evolution does not distribute resources according to your wish to remain young. It tends to favor the stages that pass life onward. You may want the body to spend everything on keeping this oneself intact. But life, at its deepest level, keeps asking a different question. What can continue after this self is gone? That question does not erase you. It explains why your own body can sometimes feel like a contract you never signed. That does not mean your life is meaningless after reproduction. Human meaning is not the same thing as evolutionary pressure. You can love, teach, protect, create, remember, and choose long after biology has stopped giving you its best bargain. But the fear of death changes shape when you see this. You are not only afraid that life will end. You are afraid because the body you call mine may never have belonged only to you. It has been carrying you, repairing you, limiting you, and preparing to pass the story beyond you. And maybe that is why death feels so offensive. Not because it is unnatural, but because it reveals that life was never built around your permission.